And welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Well, today's visit by President Obama was something of a bipartisan affair. Two Republican congressmen from New York, Chris Gibson and Richard Hanna, flew to the Capital Region with the Democratic president aboard Air Force One. And then Obama announced that he had tapped CEO of GE, Jeffrey Immelt, who happens to be a Republican, to head his restructured Economic Advisory Council. And then in addition, the White House also invited the Republican assemblyman who represents the part of Schenectady where GE is located to attend the speech. He's my next guest, Assemblyman Jim Tedisco. Nice to see you.
Liz, it's always a pleasure.
Okay, so how does that happen? The White House calls and says, hi, come on over to GE. We'd like you to see this.
That's basically the way it happened. The day before, yesterday, Thursday, I wasn't in the office, talked to the staff people and told us the procedure, the process. We had to be there basically between 10:30 and 11 o'clock and basically sat around, kibitzed, talked, solved most of the problems of the world with a lot of other legislators for 2 hours until the governor got there at about a little after 1 to speak. So it's a lot of hurry up and wait, but I think they did a pretty good job getting us in and getting him in, and it wasn't too protective.
Well, the governor, Andrew Cuomo, greeted, with Mayor Jennings, greeted the president on the tarmac when Air Force One came down, and then they all came over and together, and then the president was there. Not for very long, a 17-minute speech.
Yeah.
Did you hear something that you liked?
Well, I like the fact that the very fact that the president decided to come back for a second time to this region, but specifically to the General Electric, because this is a facility where, when you talk about technology and new energy, it was spawned there. It was the birthplace. Thomas Edison created the light bulb there. I had a dad that worked in the foundry there for 40 years. My grandfather worked in machine repair there for 37 years. That's a total of 77 years. They actually built turbines 50 or 60 years ago, which probably worked just as good as when they came off the assembly line. Great product. They almost put themselves out of business because they built them too good. And I think what the president was talking about when he was introducing and trying to develop an idea for this new green technology to create jobs is this is the type of facility where we can create this rebirth once again of a new technology. Because the technology we have now really it was initiated at a place like General Electric, and I would have loved to see him come. One of the concerns I have, and he talked about the fact that we're still in a recession, we have a trade deficit, but he didn't talk about the fact that he was going to talk to Mr. Immelt. These task forces are great, Liz, but I think it's time to stop the task forces and start bringing the products to places like GE.
That's an interesting point that you make, because it's a segue into something else I wanted to ask you about. The state Republican Party chairman, Ed Cox, was not invited, not in the room. Yeah. There were a couple of Republicans. As I said, you were there. Obviously, a couple of congressmen were there. Part of the problem is, of course, that this area is represented more by Democrats, just a Democrat-dominated area. Yeah. Ed Cox criticized the president. He put out a statement, and he said, this is a publicity stunt, quote, meant to divert attention from his lavish spending policies, a failure to create an environment where businesses can grow. Then he also said that this was pretty much a photo op, similar to what you were saying in terms of the creation of a committee or a council or whatever you want to call it, isn't actually a policy that it helps create jobs, but it is to create a body that then subsequently gives you recommendations on how you might create jobs. I mean, look, you're seeing the governor do it too. Andrew Cuomo, also a Democrat, very business friendly, very fiscally conservative, has created a Medicaid task force and a mandate relief task force. So,
well, Liz, I think both at the federal and the state level of government, they've been kicking the can down the wrong road so long it's rusted, and taxpayers' dollars are just falling out of it right now. We need to have some action. And I'll be truthful with you. I thought the president was very eloquent. I thought he had a lot of good points to make, but he didn't exactly create a tingle up and down my right leg. I mean,
but could he have really? I mean, be honest.
Well, he could have said this. I know that Thomas Edison took that light bulb, developed it here, and from that point we developed much of the technology we have today.
He did bring up Edison.
Okay, let me just say what I wish he had said after that.
Okay.
And I know you have the skilled workforce. I know you have the facility here. I know General Electric and the people in this district, the 40,000 to 50,000 who work here, did it before. I'm going to work with Mr. Immelt to bring a product back to the General Electric, a green energy product, which can create 10 to 15,000 jobs.
But isn't that what they're doing? They're creating new batteries, they're creating new turbines, they're creating all sorts of things.
600 jobs so far. And don't get me wrong, I'll accept 600 jobs for
better than 0 jobs.
For new battery technology. And I said that to most of the media there. That's not going to really kick up our economy. If we're serious about this green technology and jobs, and that being the force that takes us down from that 10% unemployment down to a reasonable level, we've got to really move the big products which relate to the green technology. General Electric and the very capable workforce we have in this capital region is capable of doing that. So I didn't expect him to come and say, we have a product, we're going to bring it. I expected him to say, I'm going to talk to the leaders of the General Electric and ask them about developing a product that we can bring back to this facility to develop these jobs and start to spin up the economy, turn it around.
Okay. I just want to ask you in parting, though, I mean, when we talk about private sector jobs and juicing up the private sector, it's something that obviously the governor is also trying to do. He's talked about jobs, jobs, jobs. He wants to focus on the economy. The president, jobs, jobs, jobs. Obviously setting himself up for a re-election effort in 2012. It's all about the economy. It's the one area or one of the areas where people are still hurting, still not at work, still feeling the recession, even though if you look at the economists will tell you that the numbers are turning around. However, one way that Republicans are always saying, let's get our spending under control, well, one way to do that is to cut thousands of state workers, cut government spending. But that's going to impact negatively your constituents.
Well, this is the point I'm making. If you bring a product to the General Electric that creates 10,000 to 15,000 jobs, I think I heard that number someplace else. It's about the public sector here,
right.
And the governor saying we may lose 10,000 to 15,000 jobs. I know where we can fill that gap with some of those workers who might have those technical skills. And in terms of our chairman, Mr. Cox, he's the political arm of the Republican Party. You know, what I'm talking about here in a nonpartisan way, and I have to say, I've heard Democrats lately talk a lot about task force, about commissions, about a commission to eliminate task forces and commissions. But I've heard Republicans recently not only talk, but walk the walk. In the Senate, Dean Skelos passed a bill that I authored in the Assembly to provide tax incentives to small businesses who will create 40 to 60% of the new jobs if they hire people who are unemployed. That's about putting people back to work. That's about expanding the economy. That's realistic. That's walking the walk. Those are some of the things I'm talking about.
Okay, well, we will see if the Assembly follows suit. I'm not so sure since they are under Democratic control, but I know that Republican hope springs eternal. I want to thank you very much, Jim Tedisco, for joining us.
Always a thanks, Liz. Happy to be here.